What's going on, guys? It is Logan here with Courtside TV, and today I am here with Noah and Connor, and we are going to be sharing and talking about our personal Mount Rushmores of athletes. So basically, obviously, Mount Rushmore, we got four athletes each, and we're just going to go through one at a time and just talk about each athlete we have and maybe like a minute or two about why we have that athlete. Once again, this is personal Mount Rushmore. So if there's athletes you think we left off or whatever, sure, there's probably a Mount Rushmore that is more realistic for all athletes in the world. But this is just our personal opinions. So I'm going to go ahead and start. My first athlete is Michael Phelps, and personally, I only really watch team sports like football, basketball, baseball, whatever. Um, but I understand what Michael Phelps has done. All the gold medals at the Olympics. I mean, you know, not a lot of people really pay attention to swimming, but when he was, doing what he was doing, it was incredible, and everyone really took notice of it. And also a little bias in me is Michael Phelps is a Michigan man, so yep, his accomplishments in the Olympics, gold medals, and the fact that he's a Michigan man, that's why he is my first athlete on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I think we're going to kind of keep this rolling. Michael Phelps is also on my Mount Rushmore. So I'm just going to throw out a couple numbers for you guys. He's got 39 world records in swimming. He's got 26 records in the Guinness Book of World Records. He's won 23 gold medals and 28 total medals. That kind of dominance hasn't ever been seen in Olympics. And that's the most gold medals. That's the most total medals for an individual athlete. And, some of them are relays, but for an individual, that's the most all time. And my little bias in this is that I didn't swim long. I swam for like 3 summers. But watching my brother swim, how hard he worked, I know he did like 3-hour practices at a time. I know Michael Phelps does or when he was in his prime for swimming, doing 4 and 5-hour practices a day. And me doing my little 1-hour practices in the morning at 8 a.m. for summer swim. That were probably, I can almost guarantee they're significantly easier than those. Those were tiring enough as it was. Swimming is an extremely hard sport, and I just think not enough credit is given to all that he accomplished. So that's why he's on my personal Mount Rushmore.
All right, my first athlete is probably the most biased thing that I could do. As a New England Patriots fan, Tom Brady is the greatest athlete of all time for me. I mean, as an NFL quarterback, he has the most Super Bowl rings in NFL history, or he's tied for it, most Super Bowl MVPs in NFL history. He's 207 and 60, 70,000 yards, 517 touchdowns, and 171 interceptions. I don't think there's a more clutch athlete in history when it comes to playoffs and consistency. And like I said, being a New England Patriots fan, just being able to watch him do everything that he's done growing up watching it, it's been something that honestly you had to be alive during this time to see it, because I don't think there's ever going to be anyone as dominant in a sport like football where so much changes every year. Brady does it with no one too, and that's just what makes it all the much more impressive. So that is why he is number one on my Mount Rushmore.
All right, so going along with that, and this is actually the last athlete that we have in common between the three of us. I have Tom Brady as my second athlete on Mount Rushmore as well. And Connor, I would disagree with you. Actually, I wouldn't say that's the most biased thing that you can do, because yes, you are a Patriots fan, but I think a lot of people would have Tom Brady on Mount Rushmore. Obviously, I mean, everyone knows the 5 Super Bowls, potentially going on 6, all the passing yards, touchdowns, all the records Brady holds, game-winning drives with under 2 minutes, everything, everyone knows about Tom Brady. See him all over SportsCenter, and he's just been dominant for so long. And growing up, Tom Brady has been that guy in the sport of football. Kind of like, for the older generation, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, people like that were the guy growing up. And for us, that's been Tom Brady. And then obviously a little bit of bias. Tom Brady's a Michigan man as well, so got to give some love there.
All right, so first athlete that I think I have different from everybody else. Similarly to how Michael Phelps really put swimming on the map, I think that Muhammad Ali really kind of put boxing on the map. He started in around the 60s, 70s era and kind of through the 80s. over that time, he was 56-5 as a boxer. I know, there's guys like Floyd Mayweather undefeated or whatever, but he also had 37 knockouts among those 56 wins. I think that number is just incredible. Just shows how athletic he was. He won the first 31 boxing matches of his career. He was nicknamed the greatest. I don't think many other players in any sport would be called just straight up the greatest and actually go by that name. Other people probably describe different athletes as the GOAT or whatever, but his actual nickname was the greatest, similarly to how, LeBron might be King James, but this guy was actually called the greatest. And there's so many inspirational quotes of Muhammad Ali. Having a Muhammad Ali poster is like a lot of things or I think a lot of people do for inspiration. He talked about how he would turn off the light and he'd be in bed before the light went off. And he was so cocky, talking about how fast he was, talking about how great he was. And I think that level of swag is never going to be matched among an athlete. And I think that's why he's on my personal Mount Rushmore.
So you say that the swagger of Muhammad Ali can never be matched, but Muhammad Ali does not have a watch for every day that he is on vacation, and that is why Floyd Mayweather is on my Mount Rushmore. Now, that's not the actual reason, but I think Floyd Mayweather is he's without a doubt the best defensive and technical boxer of all time. 50-0, 27 knockouts. You never really see him get hit. He's so quick. And a lot of people almost like judge him and try and critique him for being like a defensive fighter and making you come to him. But that's what makes him so great is he's not going to go out there and make a mistake. He's going to pick off every mistake that you make. And I've watched Muhammad Ali fights, and I just think Floyd Mayweather is just such an impressive fighter that he can do it over the 20 years I think that he's been boxing, and he's yet to be dropped.
All right, so going on, let's see, my third athlete. This is definitely going to be some bias in me. My third athlete is LeBron James, and obviously LeBron has been one of the greats in the game of basketball, and most people have him right there at the top with Michael Jordan. Either they've got Michael at 1, LeBron at 2, or vice versa. He's right up there. And I also put LeBron, not only is he one of the greats in basketball, I put LeBron up there with some of the greats in all of sports. I mean, I think if we were to talk some of the most athletic and biggest, strongest, fastest people in the history of sports, we'd talk about people like Bo Jackson. We'd talk about people like Wilt Chamberlain. I think LeBron is up there with some of those guys. I mean, bigger, faster, stronger than everyone else in the league at any given time for the majority of his career. Obviously, 3 championships, which is not, among some of the greats in basketball. That's not a ton. Obviously, we know, Bill Russell, Michael Jordan, guys like that have a lot more. But I just think LeBron, in terms of his just pure athleticism, size, strength, speed. And I really admire LeBron for a lot of his off-the-court stuff. I think he's a better role model than people give him credit for. Things like, literally making a school for kids and, providing scholarships. And I also think he's a very, very good role model in terms of what a man should be like, and a family man, and, his wife and kids, and the father he is. So that's a little bit of bias on me because LeBron has always been my favorite player, favorite athlete. So he's my third player on Mount Rushmore.
So my next athlete I got, kind of always been a fan of him since I was little, because my uncle just would instill in me how great he was as a running back. When he actually showed me his highlights, I understood it. Barry Sanders, I personally believe he's the greatest running back of all time. You can argue other guys that may have had better stats. I know Barry Sanders never won a Super Bowl, but I'll just name some stats for you guys. So when he won Heisman 1988, that was considered one of the greatest seasons in college football history with Oklahoma State. Then he goes to Detroit. Now, Logan, I know you can probably attest to this a little bit too, being a fan of Michigan sports. Detroit has just always had the worst luck. They just, nothing goes well for them. So being on that team, he averaged over his career 100 yards a game, 5 yards a carry, and is one of 3 guys to ever get 15,000 career rushing yards. He played in Detroit's only time that they made it to the NFC Championship game, which is, I guess, considered a championship for Detroit because of how just poorly the teams played. So he was on – they were never on a good team, but he was able to put up stats. Like, he had a 2,000-yard season. The worst season he had 1,100 rushing yards, but he only played 11 games. He had 100 touchdowns over 153 games. He only played 10 years in the National Football League. Had he played more games or on a better team, I don't think there would be any doubt in anybody's mind that he is the greatest running back of all time. I just think it was a poor situation for him that caused him to caused there to be doubt among fans whether or not he is the greatest. And I think what really attests the most to who he is as a player and as a person, he wouldn't, after he scored, he wouldn't do any sort of celebration. I know that's a huge thing in today's game. Every time somebody scores, they're doing a unique celebration. He would score a touchdown, hand the ball to the ref. Because he was just he was all game. He was all business. And in his retirement, he hasn't been in the media much. He's just been living his own life. And I respect that so much because there are a lot of athletes that retire and then still want to be involved with the game. And that's respectable, but just the way that he carries himself as a person, I think just elevates his greatness and his persona of who he is.
Okay, so my third player on my personal Mount Rushmore is Wayne Gretzky. I think without a doubt the greatest hockey player of all time, and you could argue one of the most athletic players in any sport of all time. He was I didn't get to watch a lot of him as a kid because I didn't get to watch any of them as a kid, but just my dad being a huge hockey fan and him showing me Wayne Gretzky and just growing up watching his highlights, and now having Connor McDavid in the league who's been labeled the next Wayne Gretzky. That's how you kind of know that you're one of the best in the sport. Wayne Gretzky played for 20 years. He won 4 Stanley Cups, was an All-Star 15 times. He had 65 hat tricks in his career, and if you took away every goal that he scored, he would still be the all-time leader in points in hockey, which in points in hockey, if you don't know, is goals and assists each count for a point. So you add goals and assists together. So he has 2,857 points. If you took away all 894 goals that he scored in his career over 20 years, he would still have 1,963 assists, and that would still be enough to be the all-time point leader. And he really changed the game of hockey. They made a rule because of how dominant his team was when it was 4-on-4, 3-on-3. They had to change so offsetting penalties happened so it didn't go from 5-on-5 to 4-on-4 immediately. It had to be some sort of power play before. And he really just changed the way that hockey was played, and it made it more exciting to watch from what my dad has told me, and just being able to watch how dominant he was and just being traded around. He played from the age of 17 and he got traded 4 times. And just to think about a once in a generation talent being traded 4 times is crazy. But even today you have guys that get traded because of money or they're not happy with the team. So Wayne Gretzky is my third name on my Hall of Fame or my Mount Rushmore.
All right, and moving on to our final, fourth and final player or athlete on our Mount Rushmore, and I'm sure if any of you have listened through this whole thing, you're probably wondering if we're all drunk or what's going on with us, because there's a name none of us have said, and I'm going to go ahead and say that name. That is Michael Jordan. Personally, I wouldn't say, I know this is a personal opinion, Mount Rushmore. I wouldn't say that Michael Jordan is one of my 4 favorite athletes of all time. However, I respect Michael Jordan's greatness, and there was no way I was going to be able, as a fan of sports, there was no way I could leave Michael Jordan off this list. And, people know the 6 for 6 in the finals. People know the finals MVPs. People know the MVPs, All-Stars, the clutch shots in the playoffs. People know all that about Michael Jordan, the trash talk. But bigger than basketball, obviously. I talked about LeBron's off the court. If you do not follow sports, you know who Michael Jordan is. You've seen the Jumpman logo, and you know who Michael Jordan is. And he has impacted the world of sports more than any athlete ever, I personally believe. And I mean, it's 2019. Michael Jordan stopped playing in 2002, I believe. Right? 2002.
I think it was
something
around
like
that time.
With the Washington Wizards, obviously, end of his career. Wasn't a big time or whatever. But it's 2019. There is still a new Jordan shoe release pretty much every month. And now college football teams have started wearing the Jumpman logo as their uniforms. It's just incredible to me. And so many athletes have had their own brands, but there's never been anything like Jordan. The free throw line dunk is one of the most famous sports pictures of all time, and one of the most famous. The logo is. I mean, there's not much you have to say for Michael Jordan. I mean, people know who he is. They know the Jumpman logo, and that's why I've got Michael Jordan as my final athlete on Mount Rushmore.
So, being a huge basketball fan, I think if I was really personally saying my 4 favorite athletes, it would have been 4 basketball players. So I tried to limit myself to only one, and I went with one who I think had a huge influence on the way the game changed into how it is today. So just a stat for you guys, 253 players have played an NBA game who have been 6 foot or shorter, but only 41 of those have played in 500 career games. So this athlete is also one of 5 players in NBA history to retire while averaging over 40 minutes a game, joining Oscar Robertson, Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Bill Russell. All of guys who were bigger guys who played. I think Oscar Robertson was the last one to retire in 1974. This athlete, Allen Iverson, played in an era of much more physical basketball, standing 6 feet tall, playing 41 minutes a game. I think his heart is unmatched among sports. I think Kobe Bryant said it best. He said, I think we should all just be lucky that Allen Iverson wasn't 6'6", because if he was, I don't think there'd be any debate that he was the greatest basketball player of all time. He played 14 seasons. He scored 24,000 points. Only player under 6'2" to come anywhere close to that. Among guys that are 6'5" and shorter, only 2 of them can match 26.7 points per game over their career. That's Allen Iverson and Jerry West. In the postseason, he averaged 29.7 points per game while averaging 45 minutes a game, and his body held up. And I think the points is second to only Michael Jordan. There was times that he, in the postseason, they played the Lakers in the finals, and I guarantee you couldn't name me one other player from that team, but he dropped 48 and stepped over Tyronn Lue against Kobe and Shaq in LA. Like, a guy with that much heart, it's unmatched in his career. Yeah, he got 5,600 assists in his career, nearly 2,000 steals. But he only weighed 165 pounds. And pound for pound, I think there's some math I saw that showed that him and Michael Jordan scored the same amount pound for pound. I don't remember the exact math that was done there, but really the way Allen Iverson changed the game, he gave the ball to the smaller player. Before it was smaller guys dumping it in to the big guys. And then it changed to more, a wing-dominated game where guys like Michael Jordan, Julius Erving, and Dominique Wilkins just dunking the ball was really what made the game what it was. Then Allen Iverson came in the league. And I think he really did pave the way for guys like Steph Curry that are now, and Kyrie Irving, shoot first point guards that just launch threes. I don't think the game would have ever truly transcended out to there. Well, it probably would have, but Allen Iverson was the one who really started that trend of having small ball scorers. But along with that, before Allen Iverson, you got shortly before Allen Iverson, like Michael Jordan, when he played, he started off with the short shorts, and everybody had the short shorts, and they were tight. And then when Allen Iverson comes in wearing shooting sleeves, headbands, baggy clothes, things like that, it really started the trend among NBA teams and just even outside the NBA, just playing basketball anywhere, high school, college, just pick up basketball. That's how people dress. And then the crossover. I think that was really what put Allen Iverson on the map, was his crossover on Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's considered a top defender of all time, obviously. And his crossover really, that's when people are like, whoa, maybe I should try that. And I think his handle, he was considered the first dominant ball handler the way guys like Kyrie Irving and Jamal Crawford are today. And I think that Allen Iverson just truly helped transcend the game of basketball in a way that isn't appreciated as much because of how small he was and he never won a ring. But that's why he's on my personal Mount Rushmore.
So kind of going along the same lines as Noah, except instead of basketball, my sport is baseball. I grew up playing it. It is the only sport that I will watch any game from and watch it all day nonstop. I try and watch every Red Sox game, and this is a name that I really struggled with because I originally was thinking about Ted Williams, but I don't know, it was just, I already had one Boston sports athlete, and I felt like I needed to go a different direction. And I then settled on Willie Mays because of how good Willie Mays was, and you can argue he's the greatest baseball player of all time. He was, again, a guy like Wayne Gretzky, who the greatest player in baseball right now, Mike Trout, is being compared to. So it's that same thing where people aren't comparing you to them if you're not the greatest. But ultimately, I decided to settle on Jackie Robinson because of the impact that he had over baseball. He still put up great numbers. His 162-game average was batting .311 with 16 home runs, 86 RBIs, and 23 stolen bases every 162 games. That's, for the time that he played, those were very good numbers because you didn't have a lot of guys that were stealing bases and hitting as well as he was over a long period of time. He did not bat under 300 after his first 2 years until his last 2 seasons, where he batted 256 and 275. But I think the thing that everyone knows with Jackie Robinson is being the first African-American player in the MLB and how that kind of changed the landscape of baseball forever, because Jackie Robinson opened the door for people like Roberto Clemente, who you can argue is one of the greatest pitchers in baseball ever. Opened doors for so many other people. Like, the entire MLB would probably not be nearly as entertaining or fun, or it would have never grown to popularity like it has today. And just Jackie Robinson's impact in baseball is the way that it is today because of Jackie Robinson. He made baseball entertaining for fans. Like, the movie 42 is one of the best baseball movies ever, and it just showed like the impact that he had on the game. It went from just being on the field and playing baseball and that's it, to taunting the pitcher and getting under people's skin and really going out there and trying to win with any advantage that you can get. So Jackie Robinson, while he's not my favorite player, I think without a doubt he's had the biggest impact on baseball, and that's why he rounded out my Mount Rushmore.
All right, so we've all gone through our 4 players on our personal Mount Rushmores. I'm actually going to go back through and just list my 4, and then I'll let the other guys list their 4 just to top it all off and recap. My 4 were Michael Phelps, Tom Brady, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan.
I had Barry Sanders, Allen Iverson, Muhammad Ali, and Michael Phelps.
I had Tom Brady, Floyd Mayweather, Wayne Gretzky, and Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for all of our Mount Rushmores. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, or listening, I should say. Leave a like, subscribe, and also leave your personal Mount Rushmore in the comments. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of Courtside TV.
Peace.
See you guys.